Hey friends, how's it going? Well, we're out here just together again for another week. Just doing what we do. You're not strangers, most of you, but we do have something that's been kind of added. Now, you've seen this guy, the Buell 275 square tube, but recently it added this beautiful cold blast globe. See that? Is that nice? And it's got a little bit of an amethyst tint, if you could pick that up in the camera, in the video. Anyways, very nice strong strike, cast, whatever you want to call it. Now, some experts say, oh, these globes were not cast, they were blown. Okay, but there's seams. In my experiences, blown glass have no side seams. I'm not an expert about glass and how the process of making a lantern globe is, or how it's done. That's something I would like to learn and maybe see a film about. But anyway, I don't know, how do they get that embossing on there if it's blown glass? I don't know how that's done. But anyways, I'm not the glass guy. If you out there know something about blowing glass and embossing glass, please leave a comment. I'd be interested to find out for sure. Yes. But anyway, this is a nice globe, and it was acquired through a fellow collector, and he watches my videos. So shout out to Mr. Large out there in Alabama. Thank you so much for this beautiful amethyst tinted Buell cold blast globe. And it is a very snug fit, but it looks good. I think it looks good. I love my root beer globe. It's probably going to live in this frame, or I'll burn it at night when I don't want light, but I'll burn this globe when I want light, right? So, yeah, the amber dark root beer globe definitely is very soothing and very nice to burn at night when you really just want some kind of atmosphere. But if you're outside and you want some light, the clear globe is definitely one you want for maximum light output. But of course, it's an antique globe, and these are not cheap and they're not easy to find, and you're not going to want to really burn it full height anyhow. Even though it's a cold blast globe, it's still going to be running the risk of cracking because of heat, stress, and all that. And it's 100-plus-year-old glass, so 25-year-old glass to be exact. So with that being said, we're going to burn it nice and low. So, yeah. Okay. So, okay. You caught the secret word there. So, you've already seen the title card, and you saw the name of the video. So, yeah, we know what we're doing today. We know what we're sharing. And it should be no secret. Well, that's annoying. I just struck that match. Didn't know I could blow it out by just trying to huff on it. Come on. Yeah. There we go. So, this guy is going to be moved to the back. So, there. He's going to be our background audience. But we'll bring this guy up here. There it is. The Dietz O.K tubular. As you can see, I have a clear globe in it. I like the look of a nice clear globe in a aged, rusticated frame. It looks nice. I think so. I think it does. Anyway, I've done nothing really to this frame except for this. You remember in the last video, this little cross wire was really loose. It was flopping around. Yeah. How do I fix it? Well, I was talking about JB Weld. I think I mentioned JB Weld. And I did. I tried some JB Weld and let it sit over the course of a day. and I kind of felt it to see if it was hard and it was not going to move. Well, that lasted for a second. Then it, I just tested it and then it started moving again. It was hard, but then I just wiggled it just a little bit to make sure it was going to stay, and it broke loose. So I went to a cigar store. Well, for a few cigars. Duh. But I bought a lighter. One of those butane jet lighters that some of the aficionados prefer to light cigars. So I bought one. It was not expensive, but I bought one. I thought, well, this will be dual purpose because on the weekends I enjoy a nice stick, and I'll use it for soldering. Yeah, because some of the experts have shown me how to kind of do it with a cigar torch. Instead of having a soldering iron, you use a jet torch on the solder, and then you use a flathead screwdriver. You just kind of push the solder when it gets soft. You just kind of push it around and mold it how you kind of want. And as long as the surface is clean, it will take to the metal surface that you're trying to apply it. Soldering is a very tricky thing, and I'm still learning the ropes. I want to learn more about it, actually. Should probably look into about taking a class on metalworking and soldering and all that jazz. But anyways, this was tricky. I'll show you. So I did it from the back. See, I heated it up and moved it. I spread it around. It's a little ugly, but there was a lot of solder on there. A lot of old solder. So I'm like, well, geez, somebody might have tried to fix that at one time. It might have been maybe a newer employee who was just kind of getting the hang of putting these things together, because there was definitely, you can see right here, you see that? You can see how much blob of solder there is. And that had, before I did anything, it had a lot of age on it. It was dark like this solder up here. So unless it was done a very long time ago, that would be the reason why it was dark solder, and it was just kind of, just dark and aged. But I don't know if it was from the factory or if it was, an earlier repair. But whatever the case is, it's solid now, it's holding, and it's great. So, like I said, that's right, you remembered. I'm not going to fire it until it's fixed. Until it's right. Well, it's not the cleanest or prettiest repair job, but then we're dealing with 130-year-old solder. The fact that I could reconstitute it and heat it up and then just slightly spread it around and let it hold that wire in place is quite remarkable, really, if you think about it. Yeah. But anyways, this thing is not perfect. As you can see, the center guard wire is not aligned at all. It's kind of bent, and it kind of leaned. The whole basket wants to lean to one side. You can see that? Yeah. Anyway, so this is not a prime example. It's not. And the clip is just a little off. You can see it's a little off-centered. I've tried to straighten things out a little bit, but I don't want to go crazy because we're dealing with metal and solder that's, once again, 130 or so years old. But it does clip into place. It does the job. So we will light it. I have some fuel in here. And yes, it does hold the fuel just fine because, like I said, the inside of this thing is brilliantly clean. It's very clean. Yeah. We'll just light it here. And into place. There it is. Pretty simple to light. I like it. I do. Burns really well, apparently, too. Absolutely. So the Dietz O.K. They actually made this lantern for quite some time. So I would say right around the square tube era, they introduced the Dietz O.K. There were other tip back type of models that they offered earlier on where the whole frame tilt back. I don't have any examples like that in my collection because, well, they can range for $400 to $1,000, some of them. They're very expensive and very rare. I agree, but I'm not going to cry about it, nor should you. Anyway, this is a really fun lantern, and they came out right around 1890. Of course, I explained that in my last video, how the fount style was different, kind of like an early square lift. Two-piece fount. I mean, this is still kind of a two-piece fount, but it's a one-piece with a bottom that's soldered in, and this was the bottom and skirt that was soldered onto the side of the fount. Anyhow, you get it. This is a cool piece. It's really nice. It's in very sturdy shape. It's not pitted. It just has a very light surface rust and some darkness to it, and I like the look of it. I don't think I'm going to do much to it at all, except for just burning it. The cone is brass. It's not hinged because there's a hinge behind it that holds the globe plate in place. So it wouldn't be very, I guess, practical to try and have a hinged globe plate when there's a metal wire hinge behind it that allows the plate to hinge. So you see how that is? It's all soldered onto the back of the manifold, and then there's a hinge here so the globe plate can tip back. And it's a fun design, and it's very easy to service and very easy to use. And that was the beauty about the Dietz O.K. SG&L offered the same lantern. CT Ham came out with a tip back globe style lantern, and I think they got in trouble with Dietz and SG&L. Dietz was, of course, notorious, protecting their patents. So, yeah, CT Ham's version or example that was loosely based off of this, because they had the oval or D tube, as some people call them, construction, and it was more or less the same style lantern. Not aesthetically, but operation it was. So they just decided to go after them and say, hey, you're gonna need to stop that. That's our design, darn it. Anyway, so this thing here is just a beautiful burner. It's got original, dirt and rust on it. Like I said, it's just a very light surface rust that would occur when sitting on a shelf in a dark, dry place. There's mild humidity. Anyhow, this thing is really cool, and I like it. I have another OK. You've probably seen the video. It's just 1 or 2 years later than this one. It has the larger circle cross logo that I actually have an example. Now, the OK is in the house, but this number 13 has the larger logo. See? Goes out right up to the edge of the ring there. So my other Dietz O.K has the same logo as this. So you get the idea. I should have brought it out. And had both of them on the bench and did the whole OK thing, but you don't need to see both of them. But at some point in time, I will do a dual burn. The other one is on the shelf, and it has a very expensive, rare globe in it, so I'm not going to fire it with that globe in it. Now, but this one is a really cool piece, and it's been on the burn list. So I'm going to be enjoying this tonight, and it's going to be a fun one to enjoy. Now, would I need a marked tubular globe for this? It'd be nice to have. It's not necessary. I'm all out of Dietz marked number O tubular globes. I do have some other frames that are not being used, so I can swap them out. Globes are interchangeable. No one needs to keep the same globe, especially if they were given a marked globe at some point in time by me. But anyways, this is a nice early hot blast style number O style globe. It's a period globe, so I think it looks nice, and it works just the same. And if it breaks, I'm not going to be upset about it. But the fun thing about these OKs is that they have this nice wire guard it's a cradle to keep it in place as you tip back, because there's a little wire retaining ring right on the top. See that? Goes around one side, little half moon retaining clip. So it clips in, and then you can tip it back and light it, clean the wick, or replace the wick, clean the burner, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, very simple lantern to maintain and light and enjoy. And like I said, they were making this all the way clear into the 1930s. from 1890 to 1935, give or take. It's a pretty decent run. We're talking about 45-year run, probably, give or take. Yeah, almost 50 years that they made the Dietz O.K. That's a long time. So it was a popular model, and it looks good, and it's very serviceable, very easy to use. So I'm sure they made a lot more than we can find today. Yeah, because we're talking about something that was made before World War II. And the reason I bring up WW2 is because, well, you know what a lot of people thought of this stuff during the 40s? Scrap. Yeah, a lot of things were scrap. Old enamelware and old stoves and lanterns and tin and all that stuff. Whatever somebody was not using that they could spare, that they weren't using anymore, was part of the scrap drive. So how many of these were scrapped for the war effort? I'm sure we'd be sick to our stomachs because there's kind of not enough of these to go around. But then again, there's a lot of them are in collections and whatnot. So ever so often, somebody will let one loose, and somebody will have another chance to own one. But they're really nice, and they are out there. They're not as rare as maybe, well, that thing. Definitely not as rare as the 275 square tube. But Dietz O.Ks, they're fun. They made them for almost 50 years. And you can find them from all different periods, different decades. And the later ones are easy to identify because once they corrupted to the 19-teens, they got the larger fill cap. And then they also had the reinforced air tubes like later Victor or whatever. So if it has creases, reinforced creases on the air tubes that are stamped into the metal, then you know you have a later Dietz O.K, also the larger fill cap. And overall, it will have kind of a later look about it. Anyways, it has this clip, so in able to keep this design functional, they kept the flat top fount. And I think the later examples use a high-low fount, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check the catalog pictures that I've seen to make sure. But I know for certain, for a fact, they did use the 1900 and 1902 era fount from the Victor, at least the shape of it. So I think they just kept using that die and just rebranded it, made a copy of it, and just remarked it for Dietz O.K tubular or Dietz O.K whatever. But for those experienced collectors out there, there's one version. I will slip a picture. As I'm talking about it, I'll slip a picture in so you can see what I'm talking about. But on the back of the fount, okay? On the back of the fount, right here, where it says OK tubular, okay? Well, it's different. And it's right around on the outside of this era. So this is 1893, 92, 93, right around there. And through 95, it went from the smaller bottom stamp to the larger bottom stamp design on the fount bottom, and then they did away with that. But there was, I'd say right around 1896 or 7, very small window, they did this. Check it out. That's right. It's a very stylized OK, kind of wide, but with two elongated arrows pointing at the OK. And that, my friends, is very rare. That is going into 275 rarity. So I've seen a couple of examples posted on the group, in the Tubular Lantern Collectors group, and also the Antique Lantern Collectors page. But they're very hard to find. Subscriber and friend, well, maybe he doesn't care if I mention his name, but Robert Emerson. Yeah, we talk often. He's a good guy, and he's been a good friend to me. But he had one of those OKs with that stylized fount deck, and he sold it to another collector, and he did well with that one. He did, but yeah, it's interesting to see the differences. It is. There's another friend of mine on the group, Brandon Walker, and he has a Victor from the early 1900s. That's a dome top Victor that has a very stylized Victor. It's very blocky and it's kind of stylized. It's kind of almost italicized if I remember correctly. But it's funny to see these different advancements and changes in the style of text that they use on the founts. It's minimal. It's nothing that most people would notice, but us collectors, we pay attention to the differences, and we know all the different little advancements sometimes if we're paying attention. But that's what makes this hobby kind of fun, is because as a model was produced, it went through very subtle little changes. To the untrained eye, it looks the same thing as it did through the beginning to the end, but you know, when you start looking at things, you notice different little things, and you're like, whoa, okay, maybe I want to find a version like that next, you know. So some people start to collect patent runs in different eras, different decades of the same lantern, because they have minor differences, and that can be a very slippery slope, because then you're collecting multiples of the same lantern. I'm not running down that at all. I just can't afford that myself, and especially with the space I have, it's limited. So I don't have the luxury to chase after every patent run, every date manufacturer, but some do, and bravo to them. Applause, applause, applause. That's a cool thing to do if you can do it. But anyways, with that being said, guys, thanks again for joining me once more. Bless you. Did you hear someone sneeze? Anyways, I hear everything out here. But like I said, thanks again for continuing to support the channel with your likes and your comments and your subscriptions. It's all free, doesn't cost anything, so what do you got to lose, right? I try to bring some fun and entertaining content anyway. But hey, you know, maybe you guys missed it, but I did post a fun, for those railroad buffs out there, I did post a fun video with Santa Fe 3751. So go back a few videos and check that out. It's only a 2-minute video. It's set to a Woody Herman piece. And I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll just keep on going with the fun stuff. That's right. And to my knowledge, I don't really have anything I'm expecting. Well, I take that back. There's something that is coming soon. So keep your eyes open and peeled for the next share on the channel. We're doomed. I'm so doomed. I tell you. All right. That's enough for me. See you next week, guys. Bye-bye now.